I can't do it.
Okay.
We'll do it live.
Okay. No.
We'll do it live. It. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Thing sucks.
Here we go. It's another edition of the Daily Punch Drop here on a Monday, December 15th. We will cover everything. Seahawks survive like the survivor pool. They have survived. We will get to the Dugar Report a little early with Michael-Shawn Dugar. Yes, that is right. Johnny Cans is going to join us today here on a Monday. We will explain why Canzano's on a Monday with us. We will talk about Jorge Polanco exiting out of Seattle. Where do they turn next now for not only at second base, for another bat there on the market. And of course, we wrap up every show with, hey, what the puck. All right. We are broadcasting, as always do, inside the wonderful, the world-renowned, the gorgeous, the beautiful Limback Lumber Studios. We would not be able to do this daily without the full support of Limback Lumber and a host of other great sponsors. But Limback Lumber, they support this fine studio. They're going to help you out with any of your lumber needs. Give them a call, 206-782-3487. And visit them at limbacklumber.com. They got free deliveries, everything from whole house packages to homeowner DIY projects. They also want me to mention, Paul, the owner, says, hey, it's the time of year. It's the holidays. People could use some help. So if you can donate, whether it's with food, your time, or money at your local food bank, please do so. They are heavily involved with the folks at the Ballard Food Bank and obviously with the holidays, but with everything that's happening in Skagit County and across our state and across our region in the Puget Sound, there are a lot of families right now, 10 days away from Christmas that don't have a home. They have lost everything, and they could use some help. So if you can, your local food bank, please donate today. Also, I'll send out some links. I did it earlier this morning on X, a link to the Skagit County Relief Fund, also to the American Red Cross. The images and the videos and the stories, I mean, they're just devastating. What has happened? We're going to get another onslaught of it, I think, tonight as well, leading for another couple of days. So certainly not out of it. For the people that have been, and I know you're not watching or listening right now because you've got bigger problems, but, whatever we can do, a little can go a long way. But our thoughts are with everyone that's been affected by what's been taking place here with the weather. No go-to guy today. I'm going to let him explain why. He will have to explain for himself coming up on Wednesday. I don't know. It's a travel day for the go-to guy. So what we have done is move some things around. Michael-Shawn Dugar is going to join us here in about 5 minutes. We'll talk about the Seahawks. I know everyone's hitting the panic button here on the Seahawks, and I get it. And this is so cliched. It's dumb, and I get it. A win is a win. You win, you move on, you survive. I don't care what it looks like. Not at this time of year. Not with what they're trying to do and trying to chase down the Rams. I do not care. I don't care that they won by 2 points. I don't care that they used all field goals. Sorry, Greg Olsen. That was the game not for Greg Olsen yesterday. Greg Olsen, if he was on the call yesterday, would have been miserable with all the field goals. It is weird, though, in games. That's twice now my voice is cracked like Peter Brady. By the way, if you're counting at home, let's see if we can get a third time before we sign off here. But again, field goals do count as points, and you can win a game by just kicking field goals. And they did that yesterday. It wasn't pretty, no. Did it look like they were going to lose? Yeah. And if they lost, it would have been an embarrassment. The Seahawks would have been a laughingstock today. A laughingstock. Now, there have been a lot of praise on Phillip Rivers and all that. It wasn't like Phillip Rivers led to some great victory, but he did make some nice throws in the game, for sure. And the fact that he was able even to play and suit up was a miracle. I don't care how they won. I just don't. And at the end of the year, if they win the division and they go on and they do well in the playoffs and get to the NFC Championship game, I'm not going to look back on the Colts game and go, well, shit, they only won by 2 points. So, I mean, I don't know how good they are. I don't care. Have they played great since the Rams game? Not particularly, especially offensively. It is human nature. I think they have been gearing up for this moment, and they have been distracted since that Rams game, and it happens. But the bottom line, since the Rams lost, they haven't lost a game. And that's all that matters. All that matters is just win. The great Kent Ridge Charger football coach, Marty Osborne, shout out to Marty, we are KR. Every game, find a way to win. That was it. Just find a way. However you win the game. Deal with everything later. Of all the issues they have right now offensively, starts up front, by the way, and in all of their, lackluster first half, yes, it's obvious they haven't played great, but they just keep winning, and they got another victory yesterday, and it just sets up just a monumental showdown here in a few days, and the Rams are coming in hot. Great win yesterday for them over the Lions. They are an early 1.5-point favorite, are the L.A. Rams against your Seattle Seahawks. We'll talk to Dugar coming up here in about a minute or so, get more of the thoughts on that one. We did an emergency Old Crimson podcast that came out, was that Friday? I can't even remember it. Yeah, Friday. An emergency one discussing the hire of Kirby Moore. That's up on YouTube, by the way, if you want to go watch it. But myself, Jim Moore, Paul Sorensen, we react to Kirby Moore being hired. It's also up on all podcast platforms, Apple and Spotify, if you just want to listen to it. And then his press conference is coming up tomorrow. Why we've moved up Canzano to today is I'm going to go to Pullman for the Kirby Moore press conference. So we'll be there. We will probably alter the show just a little bit. I probably will catch up with Danny Kelly tomorrow. If we do it live or not, I'm not sure yet, just with the setup that we'll have over there. But we will be at the Kirby Moore press conference. We will have Kirby Moore on. We're going to get President Cantwell on. We're going to give you nonstop coverage coming up tomorrow there from Pullman to cover, which I'm very excited about. Very excited about Kirby Moore. Didn't know if they were going to be able to get Kirby Moore. I'll be honest with you. When we did his list of candidates, he was down there just because I didn't know if they would be able to get him out of the SEC. He made a lot of money being the offensive coordinator there at Missouri, and I didn't know if it would appeal to him. He was one of the candidates last year. There was some thought that behind the scenes he soured on them just a tad because of what the money was being offered. Obviously, that's not the case now because he is now the new head coach there at Washington State. And it's great. Does he have local ties? Well, not local in terms of Washington State didn't play there or any of that, but it actually is better because he's from there. He's 150, 160 miles away, and he just has a great connection to the program and all that. Now on the coach's search, before we get to Dugar here in just a minute, is the Jedd Fisch watch because everything that's happening with Michigan. Kalen DeBoer now is out. He's staying in Alabama. The attention for Michigan now is turned to Kenny Dillingham at Arizona State, even though there's some thought there. He has a contract offer that's out there, an extension. All signs kind of point that he's going to stay there. Now, what about Jedd Fisch? He's come out publicly and said, I'm going to coach there next year. But as we always say, they're professional liars. They're going to say whatever they want, and then they'll ask for forgiveness later. And I will make a point to Canzano when we play it later. I admit stake for Jedd Fisch if he were to leave to Michigan. And because where he's at right now is a good gig. It's a real good gig. And I don't think he gets enough credit. I have to take my Cougar hat off on this one. Get enough credit for just how good of a gig it is. And going to Michigan, I think, would be a mistake there for Jedd Fisch. All right, let's talk NFL. We do it every single Monday. We usually do it later in the program with Michael-Shawn Dugar from The Athletic. His weekly appearance brought to you by Georgetown Brew.
Drink Georgetown Tavern Beer, your new locally brewed domestic-style lager. 4.2% alcohol. Cheap, good, local.
And Michael-Shawn Dugar from The Athletic. He joins us a little bit earlier in the program. He's looking great. He's looking more refreshed. He's got small children, so he's got to be up early. This is the point of it. He knows what's going on. He knows the drill. There is no sleep for Michael-Shawn Dugar. Of course, covers the Seahawks for The Athletic. You can read all of his work at The Athletic. You can follow him on social media at Mike Dugar. You can listen and watch to him as well. Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast. Find it wherever you get your podcast, YouTube, Apple, Spotify. And, of course, he's a world-renowned author, the franchise story on your Seattle Seahawks. Don't laugh. It's true. It's true. Michael-Shawn Dugar. Well, As I said before he came on, my football coach Marty Osborne would say every time we left the field, just find a way to win. Doesn't matter. Just find a way. And you know what? They found a way to win last night.
Yeah, they did. The way was to play 44-year-old Phillip Rivers. There we go. That was the way. And also employ Jason Myers. Shout out to him making 6 of those. Special teams, 6 field goals. That is. Special teams is a big part. I think we talked about this really early in the year, where Seahawks kept having special teams moments impact their games. Whether it's they blocked some kicks. The Steelers kid forgot the rules. The Cardinals kicker didn't get it in the landing zone in week 4, which is why they basically only needed 1 pass to Jackson to set up a game-winning drive. Game-winning drives feel different now, don't they? You just need a couple passes, and these kickers have these strong legs. So I mean, yeah, Mike McDonald put it perfectly after the game in what was probably his best speech, post-game speech of the year. He was like, great football teams find a way to win, all shapes and sizes, referring to how different ways you got to do it. And he's right. But it's also correct that I'm worried about this offense coming into the best game of the year, biggest game of the year, and the most important game of the Mike era.
So where are they at right now offensively? Because it has not been smooth since that Rams game. Micah, what do you see from your vantage point?
Yeah, I think they played well against the Titans. I think they hung 30 on them all on offense, which is good. But it's the Titans. But that was encouraging, I thought. But yeah, after that, a few things stand out. One, as you know, Puck, these OCs like script the first 15 or so plays. They spend all week on that. These are the best things. These are their game plan stuff. And right now their openers stink. They're not going out there marching down the field and scoring. They can only get 6 points and a half these days, even when the defense is playing well, which is odd. So that stands out, because that's typically where OCs really cook. You got all week to come up with the good stuff, and they're just not. The defensive coordinators are winning that battle against the Seahawks to start games, so it's already putting them behind the 8 ball a little bit. And then they don't have a run game they can lean on. It's okay. It's not awful, not Ryan Grubby, but it's not something they can rely on with any regularity, and that concerns me. Yes, they found a way to win, but can you keep winning? They played a bunch of bad teams. Now they got a good team coming up here on Thursday.
I think it is human nature, though, to play to your opponent in any sport. I think it happens. I think it happens a lot, and I think that's what they have done to a degree. I think, and they'll never admit it, that they, since that Rams game, it has always just been looking ahead to the next one. I think they looked at what was on the horizon for them and go, well, we can get by. We can get by and we'll be okay. And I think it's human nature. And again, it's nothing that they'll ever admit to it. But you would have liked them to play certainly cleaner on offense since that Rams game. But I don't know if it's panic time, but also I think you'd be ignorant to avoid it and say, well, there's nothing wrong here, because if it does happen against the Rams again, Mike, you're right. I mean, especially the first half, it has been a real slog for them offensively.
Yeah, and here's the thing about playing down to the opponent: only one phase of the game is doing it. It's just the offense.
That's true.
Defense. These games have been low scoring, on defense, because those guys are playing well. They actually played pretty well on Phil yesterday. They didn't get a real sack on him, but I mean, he dropped back 30 times, something like that, and only threw for $120. Jonathan Taylor and Amir Abdullah combined for, I think, barely 100 yards, 101 on 30 carries. They played well defense, and they have been playing well. They played well in that Rams game, actually. It was Stafford's worst game of the year. It still is to date, even worse than the Carolina game. They went and lost, the one Los Angeles did. So it really is just the one phase of the game that's not showing up. And it's weird, because it feels like they've regressed. The explosives aren't there. They're getting Shaheed involved a little bit more, which is good. But they just seem to can't figure out how to run the ball. And in turn, that affects their third downs. Or the worst third and long team in the league by a mile. Looked it up last night. So, yeah, it's not panic mode. But, I mean, even talking to guys in the locker room on offense, they're like, yeah, we won, but, we won, but we need to do X, Y, and Z. With Sam, Cooper Kupp, you can go watch their press conferences on YouTube. They're saying the same thing. Yeah, we won, but we shouldn't need Jason Myers to score all our points. He should be kicking PATs, and yesterday he literally kicked 0 of them.
And the problem, the number one issue right now is what, from what you observe?
It's the inability to do multiple things that the defense is scared of. Right now, you've coached. I've been a youth coach at some level. Like if I was planning a play against the Seahawks, what would we do? We'd probably say, "Hey guys, make sure number 11 is."
My coaching's more about hurting kids.
Well, you set the tone. I'll bring the schematics. There we go. And we make a good pairing there. And what we would come up with if we were playing the Seahawks, we'd say, "Hey, they're only good at throwing a number 11.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as we have a plan for that, now he still might kill us. Jack said 113, I think, yesterday. But if we have a plan for that, even if we are not as talented as them, we should be okay." And that seems to be what teams are doing. Now, the Falcons' plan was bad. It was just to have A.J. Terrell follow him. But the Vikings' plan, you see how that went. The Colts' plans, actually, I thought they did a pretty good job, just didn't tackle well in that game. So, I mean, that is what's the problem. The great offenses have multiple things. The Rams might not have Devontae, because I just saw a video of what looked like his hamstring exploding.
Mm-hmm.
But when healthy, the Rams have multiple problems. You need to stop their run game. You need to stop Puka. You need to be worried about Devontae in the red zone. Their run game in the red zone. Stafford, no look passes. They have all these other elements. Now Colby Parkinson's Gronk. The Seahawks don't have that. They have Jackson. That's pretty much it.
He is. Parkinson's been great. Here's the one thing what I don't understand maybe about them offensively. And again, this is from the guy that's sitting on his couch, right? That doesn't know schematics and doesn't know the play calls and what they're trying to 100% execute. All right. I watch a quarterback, probably doesn't get enough credit. Strike one for our side, Mike. Probably didn't get enough credit for how athletic he is.
Yeah.
And how well he moves, getting outside. I wonder why they don't move the pocket a little bit more. Get him out, just kind of, bootlegs and sprints and just anything to change, I guess, the view for the defense to make it a little bit. So he's just not dropping back every time in the pocket.
Yeah, I mean, they're trying a little bit of it, but yesterday was weird. It felt very remember week 1, they ran 3 play action passes or something like that. And we were all like, Kubiak, hello, this is the Shanahan offense. What are you doing? And then they fixed it. And then yesterday, Puck, they ran 1 play action concept in the first half. 1. It was the ball Jax dropped. So it worked, quote unquote. Your guy was open, it was, and they never came back to it in the whole rest of the first half. And then they ran 8 in the second half. And for the game, he averaged 11.5 yards per attempt. And he had 2 passes basically that were dropped on 3 incompletions. Basically Sam was killing it on play action. And that is the best way to get to what you're speaking to, is move him, bootlegs, blah, blah, blah. And they just, for some reason, just didn't do it. Yesterday, it was, I haven't watched the full film, so maybe there was some schematic stuff going on, but that's supposed to be the staple of the offense. We're in week 16. Can you tell me what their identity is on offense? And we shouldn't have to ask that right now.
Yeah, and we've discussed this before. It even when you're not running the ball, right? Just that play action it freezes a defense for that half second to where they've got to react to it. And so it does benefit him. And I was watching, I think you wrote about, or you tweeted about how good he was there in the second half. And you're right. And, and for them to be able to do this without that consistent running game. And again, this is just the same thing we bang our heads into in the last few years, is for them to solve this running game. And how do you do it? Because you like the running backs they have, and you like what they've done on the offensive line, that, by what they've done the last few years with Lucas and Cross and then Gray Zabel. You felt like you've kind of stabilized it, but yet it's still just not consistently there. And it just kind of comes back to, at least yesterday did for me. You watched the Colts offensive line. I don't want to say dominate, but they played really, really well. I mean, they just really played a really good football game. And then on the other side is that offensive line just did not create enough space for those guys to run. And you want to run the ball, but you just kind of keep running into a brick wall every time. And you probably get frustrated with it if you're a play caller like Clint Kubiak.
Yeah, I think yesterday was, and I haven't watched the film, but yesterday was fascinating to the point you're making, is that you could at least see intent from one side. And you couldn't really see it from the other. I wasn't clear what Kubiak was trying to do.
Yeah.
But it was very clear what Shane Steichen, the Colts head coach, who also calls the plays, was trying to do. He was trying to run the ball, play keep away, time of possession, get some manageable third downs so that they could avoid having Phillip sit back there, throw some screens against an aggressive defense. Like, obviously it didn't work. They lost, but the intent was there and it was obvious in how they had a style about them. It's like, okay, I see what Shane's trying to do here. And honestly, it's the same thing I would have done if my quarterback was on his couch this time last week. Whereas the Seahawks, I was like, okay, are they trying to establish the run? They're trying to get Jackson involved. Are they trying to go hurry up? It was just a very strange. They were kind of all over the place, better in the second half when they started being themselves again. But I feel like this is the type of stuff you're working out the kinks in October. Maybe early November. By December, when we're talking about whether you can get the 1 seed in the NFC, which is what's on the line Thursday, I just feel like the identity should have taken shape, by now. And that's something I was really critical of in those last few years with some of those Pete teams. It just didn't feel like they had an identity on offense. You can critique maybe they're too much of this side of the ball, too much of running it, too pass, whatever, but they just didn't have anything. And that's kind of what I feel currently. They have talent. We'll see if Charles Cross plays on Thursday, but they just don't seem to have like a clear identity in how they want to operate right now on offense.
What is the deals with Charles Cross?
Yeah, that was weird. Did you peep that puck that he got hurt on the game winning?
No, not when
kick?
you just honestly, when you just said that, I'm like, what did I mean? I read a lot in the morning. Did I miss something? What happened to Charles Cross? I don't even know.
Go to my last tweet. I'll answer.
I'm looking at it right now. 32 minutes ago. Yeah. You said he landed awkwardly.
Yeah. He gets smushed by number 92 and ends up doing the splits on the game-winning kick. He rolls over holding the back of his leg, which typically would be his hamstring, and he has to get helped off. He goes into the blue tent.
Yeah.
They get the interception, come back out for victory formation, and Josh Jones is out there instead of him. I didn't talk to Charles after in the scramble. I didn't get a chance to. Mike McDonald was asked about it on the radio. He just kind of danced around it. Didn't even say what the body part was. So
did he say it wasn't season ending?
He did not. He's learned. He's learned his lesson. He learned to not.
That's
to
my
not
favorite. Every injury with him, it's not season ending. So
he wouldn't even ID the body part on this one. He would he's like walking. I don't think he expected people to catch that because he wasn't asked about it post game. And in the thrill of the game winner, it wasn't a lot of eyes weren't on Charles, but Chris pointed it out to me before we recorded last night. And I mean, that's a big deal. Like I said, Devontae Adams' hamstring looks like it fell off the bone yesterday. So I doubt he plays. But Charles, I mean, that didn't look good. You got your starting left tackle doing the splits against one of the best defenses in the league. I hope Charles can play. But that's the biggest concern for me right now. On top of the stuff we're talking about with the run game, it's like you're going to have your guy out there because this game is everything. This is it right here.
Right, 100%.
They're looking at 3 potential seeds, basically. 1, 5, or 6. And that's almost basically going to be decided in 2 days or 3 days or whatever.
Everything's on their plate this weekend. The division number 1 seed, all of it.
Yeah, and they have to play right now. Puck, they're playing a funky version of like Pete ball. Defense, special teams, and find a way to win in the fourth. Like Pete would have loved that game yesterday.
Yeah,
he would have got on top of
game. Of course,
he would have stood on top of Jason Myers' shoulders in the locker room and said, "Can you win the game in the first quarter? Can you win the game in this?" He would have went nuts. That was a Pete game yesterday, which isn't bad. Sure. Pete won a Super Bowl, but there's a reason everybody wanted Pete gone. We're tired of Pete ball. They want a more complete operation, and they have to have that on Thursday. The season is on the line.
You think they'll be, though, a little bit more conservative with play calling up? I mean, we're talking about the offense, and whether they've been conservative on their own or just because they're not good right now offensively. They've been conservative. They haven't performed well offensively. Do you think intentionally they do it on Thursday?
I don't think they can afford to. I think they have to go in with a plan of being aggressive because the Rams DBs, you can get aggressive on them. I haven't watched the full Detroit Rams game from yesterday, but the numbers tell me that Jared Goff was bombs away on that secondary, which I would have expected him to be. That's not a reliable secondary to me. So you can get them. So they got to go in being aggressive, thinking you can get them. Now, that said, Puck, I can't name any of the Colts corners. So I saw the same thing going into yesterday, and it could barely do anything on them to the last couple of drives. So they should go in with it being aggressive and then play it out how it goes. Like if it looks like it's going to be an ugly 16-13 game, then adjust. You find yourself in a shootout like week 5 against the Bucks, adjust to that too. But I feel like the plan going in has to be, let's put up some points on these guys because we can. If you go in there just trying to play keep away like the Colts were trying to do to you, the Seahawks shouldn't do that. They should go in there like, hey, let's go hang 30 on these guys and go take the NFC.
Hey, defense did enough, obviously, yesterday because they won the game and held them to, what was it, 16 points.
16 points, yeah.
Did you think, though, McDonald was a little too conservative defensively and should have been a little bit more aggressive to go after Rivers?
I think that this was one of those legitimately Mike Macdonald could not game plan for Phillip, because he had no tape. Legitimately no tape. The guy was sitting where me and you are 7 days ago and was like, well, what do we do? I think I'm very confident. Speaking of stuff they want to admit, I'm very confident that they went through the game being like, hey, let's see how far he can throw the ball, and then we'll adjust. Because you just don't know. They literally had no idea how far the quarterback could throw it. And then after probably like 2 or 3 drives, they were like, oh, not far. So now let's adjust accordingly. But credit to not Jonathan Taylor, Shane Steichen, who protected Phillip with the run game. Even if it wasn't killing the Seahawks, they were getting 3rd and 4s. They were getting 3rd and 3s. And if it was 3rd and long, they were screening it, checking it down to the running backs, So they were trying to get some pressure on him. But Phillip's smart, man. Sacks are a quarterback stat. And if anyone has any doubts about that, watch yesterday's game. Go on YouTube, just watch it again. And watch Phillip Rivers at 44 years old get the ball out against a team that is 4th in sacks.
Right. it's
not just the O-line or it's the quarterback. And I think they tried, and Phillip's a savvy vet. I saw him come here in 2018 and play that same way and beat the Seahawks at Lumen Field. Like, he's a good player. So they tried. He was he did his part. And they did their part too. I mean, I really think that the offense should have to. I imagine that within each position group, Puck, they buy each other Christmas gifts around this time of year. Like O-line takes care of each other. Sam buys them all scooters or something. The offense should go buy the defense stuff this week. They really should, because they have been having their back for a month. They have, they owe it. Now, hopefully they do that on Thursday. But yeah, everyone on offense should go find somebody's shoe size on defense or pant size or whatever and say, hey, I got you. What you need, it's on me, because they have been bailing these guys out week after week. And I'm glad Sam Darnold said it yesterday. He said, this is becoming a thing and we need to fix it. That was like the best quote he's given all year. I feel like it's like, we need to start faster, finish drives in the red zone, score more points, because this is becoming a thing. I'm glad he said it, because we're all sitting here like, yes, Sam, it is a thing. And you guys should be better even though you won.
My favorite Rivers moment yesterday in the game, when he slipped on the turf and fell down. You remember that play? He didn't get sacked. He ends up, but did you see how he got up? It's very old man getting up. Like, he kind of got up and he kind of struggled to get up and he kind of wobbled to get up. Anybody that's 45 years older and up, you don't understand that. Everything's hurting when he tried to get up. He made it up, back on his feet, and got the ball away. But it was amazing. I just sat in awe, and it wasn't like he was spectacular, but he hadn't played in 5 years, and he's 44 years old. He made that pass on that last drive, which they had that field goal that gave him the lead, which was a good throw, and he made good decisions. The touchdown pass was a good one. I just was blown away for a guy to kind of come off the streets like that and to be able to do what he was capable of was, it was fun to watch. As a football fan, it was kind of cool to see that and see the reaction of the kids that he coaches. His kid was, in the stands and watching it, just one of those kind of cool NFL moments.
2 things on that. One of those plays he fell, and they did get a sack, their only sack. It got credited to Nicky Mawari. Shout out to him, because that'll help his defensive rookie of the year numbers as he tries to catch the kid from the Browns, who I think is now down to minus 225 for the award, and he was like minus 700 like just last week. So he's on him. The second thing, Puck, there's a world where that back shoulder throw to Alec Pierce for 16 yards on 3rd down is a game-winning throw. Like, if Jason Myers isn't nails, or if Rashid Shaheed doesn't give them great field position coming out of that kickoff, every show Monday morning is leading with Phillip Rivers takes down Mike Macdonald's defense, off his couch. He might even be on Good Morning America. Like, that would have been the story of the NFL, and it's not because Phillip did anything wrong. That's the best throw of the night, on a really good corner. I was actually very impressed with Phillip to avoid sacks, to avoid hits. There's a lot of young quarterbacks, Puck, who could learn from how Phillip Rivers managed the game, protected himself, got the ball out. There's a lot of young guys. Caleb Williams can learn from him. Jordan Love, a lot of young guys who can learn from that. So credit to Phillip, man. He basically did it. He led a game-winning drive.
Yeah.
His defense was just down Travarius Ward and Sauce, and then they gave it up.
It was a fun watch. All right, well, it'll be a quick turnaround there on Thursday. The Seahawks and Rams for everything, right? For the division, for the number 1 seed, so much on the line. We'll be paying attention. You should be paying attention as well. Mike Dugar there on social media for the very latest there on the injury situation with Charles Cross. Read all of Mike's work up at theathletic.com. Watch and listen to the Seahawks Man-to-Man podcast along with Chris Kidd, available everywhere, YouTube and every podcast platform. And, of course, get the book, The Franchise Story on the Seattle Seahawks, the holidays. 10 days away. And if you bring it, he has copies. He will sign there on Thursday if you're going to the game.
Yes, I will. Signed like 6 yesterday between pregame, halftime, and postgame. It was, fantastic. Met some people from Finland who bought some books at the I'm telling you, we're international. We're international with it. Yeah. So if you guys want a book, hit me up, DM me, and my DMs are open. I will bring copies. I'll have plenty. I have a whole case on Thursday.
Perfect.
I know a lot of people are coming to that game. So
Good.
There we go. Yeah. I hear you're going to Pullman. Did I hear that before I came
I'm gonna go watch it. I'm gonna go see our native son is coming home. The pride of Prosser. I'm excited about it, Mike. I am. I think that this is, I hope, fingers crossed, he's good and all that. And there's always a risk when you hire a first-year head coach, but it's a good hire. I think they might come out on the other end looking pretty good with this one.
Yeah, I hope he. I know this isn't the Cougs segment, but I just hope that he recognizes there's a new way to sell Wazoo. And you can sell us in the right way to coaches, to recruits. Like, if you come here and ball out, success awaits. Is that success still in college? Is that success in the NFL? It doesn't really matter. Success awaits. You come here and ball, you'll get the call to shout Dion's old NFL Network series. You will, whether you get $1 million to go play at Oklahoma or you're a 3rd round draft pick. You come here, you'll succeed if you just put the work in. And I think that's how a lot of coaches have to sell their programs these days. It's not come here, stay forever. We're going to graduate you, mold you into a good kid. No, I hope you get $1 million from Texas. Will you sign? All right, cool. There you go. Yeah,
lean into it. Lean into the last few quarterbacks that you've had there. I think it's a sound strategy. I really do. And some will stay, and that's great, and then some will depart. But you know what? If you can sell that, I like that idea of selling that. You can come here, still get everything that you want, but we'll give you the opportunity to play right away. I think it's a wise one. We'll see. I can't wait. It'll be fun to go listen to them and see it up close and personal. There, Kirby Moore, the press conference coming up on Tuesday. All right, Mike, we'll talk to you next week. And as always, go Cougs.
I appreciate you, Puck. Go Cougs.
There he is, Michael-Shawn Dugar, the Dugar Report. His weekly appearance brought to you by Georgetown Brewery, makers of Manny's Pale Ale, Bodhisattva, Rogers Pilsner, and their new Tavern Beer Tasting Room Beer Garden, open daily, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Visit them at georgetownbeer.com. All right, so speaking of that, we decided to have John Canzano on today to react to the hiring of Kirby Moore, because we're going to be on the road tomorrow, so we'll have to alternate that show a little bit. So John could not be with us tomorrow, so we had him on today. Talk about Kirby Moore, what is it going to take there now financially at Washington State to compete in this new Pac-12. Also, the rumors swirling, and they won't stop until either they hire him or he comes out with a statement saying, I'm officially staying put at Washington, and here's my contract extension by Pat Chun. Jedd Fisch to Michigan. The very latest with all things college football with John Canzano, his weekly appearance, of course, brought to you by Flat Stick Pub. If it's fun you desire, it's fun you're going to get at Flat Stick Pub. It doesn't matter what the occasion is, whether it's date night, guys night, ladies night, or large group event, Flat Stick Pub's got you covered. They have 6 great locations across the Pacific Northwest, from Pioneer Square to Kirkland, South Lake Union, Spokane, Bellingham, and Redmond. All locations offer the best pub experience in Washington. 2 rules at Flat Stick Pub: drink local and have fun. Pretty simple. So if you like to have fun, love local beer, and great tasting food, make Flat Stick Pub your next spot. Visit them at flatstickpub.com. This all out. Ladies and gentlemen, it's John Canzano. Look at his smiling face. You're going to hear his beautiful voice here in just a second. Of course, his weekly appearance, John Canzano. Of course, johncanzano.com. Fame brought to you by Flat Stick Pub. Perfect spot for large group events. Great spot for date nights. Doesn't matter. Anybody and everyone is welcome there at Flat Stick Pub. And John's with us here, usually on Tuesdays, but it's a surprise Monday visit, moving some things around. The go-to guy is called in sick, but we wanted him on for initial reaction of a lot of things going on in college football. In fact, on Tuesday, I'm going to be in Pullman for the Kirby Moore press conference. So this is what has led for John being on here on Monday. All right, John, let's start first with the Kirby Moore news. It happened fast there for the Cougs. It really did. Maybe not as fast as others wanted, maybe some alums, but it went fast. And I don't know, the appearance, it looks like they got their guy.
Yeah, look, I talked to John Harlow, the athletic director, the acting athletic director, yesterday. He said 7 days, wire to wire. And it's really interesting because I did have conversations with him very early in the process, the day after Jimmy Rogers left, a couple days later. And I could tell he wasn't getting a lot of sleep. Like, they were fielding calls. They were trying to talk with, every interested candidate, every donor. I think it was evident that, we've seen a couple of the schools, including Oregon State, take this approach. They're looking for energy. They're looking for a youthful coach that can connect. They're looking for somebody who can get into the portal and speak the love language of recruits. And they feel like they've got that guy in Kirby Moore. Now, I'll be interested to hear what you think after his introductory news conference tomorrow. But, I think he's got to do a really good job of capturing the fan base because, as John Harlow, the athletic director, mentioned to me, there are only 4,500 donors for Washington State football. You think about 250,000 alumni and 4,500 donors, you're missing a large part of the audience. You don't have penetration into your core audience. And so let's see if Kirby Moore can get to people tomorrow and make them open their checkbooks and buy into this fundraising thing that the president is pushing. And that's what it's going to be about. It's a race for resources now.
Yeah, I don't know why they haven't been able to get more. It's really odd. I think it's the greatest mystery, I think, of anybody that follows, the school and the program, is their inability to really tap in to people to give back. And again, people say, well, that's why they needed a Rick Neuheisel to come in and spark interest. They need, someone more visible like Mike Leach. But here's the problem: even when they had Mike Leach, people weren't donating. Yeah. I don't know. They haven't been able to get off the sidelines. I will be curious to see how he attacks that in his press conference on Tuesday. I would just advise him. You have to be strategic what you say, and don't fall into the loyalty trap. Don't fall into the, I'm going to be here forever. Just make it simple. I'm here to do a job now. I'm happy to be here. You stick to these talking points because, I think the fan base is pretty wounded what's happened here in the last few years, because people get hired and then they leave right away. And I think someone may ask him tomorrow probably, hey, well, what happens if you have success? Aren't you just going to entertain offers to leave elsewhere? And John, I don't know how you answer that.
I think you have to be honest. I think people, the Washington State fan has been to the puppet show. It knows where the strings are, right? This fan base has been more brutalized and more punished than any fan base in America by what has happened in the last 3 years in college athletics. The consolidation of the Power 5 to the Power 4, the splintering of the Pac-12, the departing schools, coaches, Jake Dickert, and now Jimmy Rogers running for the hills, a kid like John Mateer who wants to stay, but the circumstances don't line up. I look at Washington State's fan base and I go, they have been brutalized. And so I think if you're Kirby Moore, you come into the room and, he's going to watch this. Like, he's going to do his homework. He's already toured the facilities. He's looking to see what what the fan base wants to hear. And here's what I would say to Kirby Moore. This is a fan base that needs somebody who's not going to bullshit it and is going to put their arm around it and say, look, here's the reality. I'm not going to be here forever. If I have success, this is great for everybody. That means you've had success. Let's go win together. But also, let's put together a contingency plan and have somebody on my staff, if I leave and go off and take another job, have somebody on my staff ready to step up and be the next head coach. So you're not left in this position, this perpetual cycle of having to go out and find somebody new and start all the way over every 11 months. It's insanity to do that. And so I think, if you're the Washington State fan base, what you want to hear is like, look, I'm going to be here. I'm going to try to win in the next 2 or 3 seasons. Are you with me? And I think people can get behind that. I think there'd be a faction of people who go, okay, that's refreshing. Somebody's saying, let's win now. This is great for everybody.
I think the advantage is, and I think we talked about this when we were talking about candidates, did you need someone that played there? Did you need a Coug alum? And again, he's not a Coug alum. I, though, will take it a step further. This actually might be better because the people that were mentioned that were Coug alums, right? They spent 4 years there. They weren't from there. This guy's 160 miles away. He understands what the climate is, the culture is in and around Eastern Washington. The fact that he grew up a Cougar fan, the fact is that he wanted to go there but didn't go there because they didn't recruit his brother. Just think about that. Yeah. They didn't recruit the guy who goes on and sets every record imaginable in college football. Just one of the most prolific passers ever. And the reason he didn't go there is, he didn't recruit my brother, so I'm going to go and team up with him at Boise State. I just think that even though he's not an alum, he is one of them because he's lived in a small town in Eastern Washington, and he's got a great background with his dad and obviously his brother. So I think the fact that he went to those games, he understands what it's like, grew up being a fan, I think actually in a way will help him almost more than an alum who did not grow up in the state, didn't understand what it's like, didn't understand really the underdog mentality that program truly has, because that guy's grown up with it his entire life. It'll be interesting to see how he uses that to his advantage with talking to donors, the players that are on the team and how he uses that in recruiting. Yeah, I'm very excited, I think, about this hire. I really am.
Yeah, and there's some understanding there more than anything. Like, he doesn't have to have attended Washington State to understand the Washington State fan base. I didn't go to Washington State, but I pull into that parking lot on game days, and I do relate to the Washington State fan. I see the faces of the fans in the parking lot. I talk with them and hear what they've gone through. And I empathize with that fan base. And I think he does have an understanding of what it is to try to punch above your weight. Look at his own story as a athlete and a player. And that regional understanding is valuable. And if because you can't really grasp what Washington State has fully been through, even the good years of Washington State football, without having had that front row seat that he had. And I think that's part of the reason why they wanted to talk with him, is that there was just a connection there. He wants this job. I think he'll make it his own. I also think he would be really smart to look over at somebody like Luke Falk and say, hey, is there a spot for you on my staff? I know in my conversations with Rick Neuheisel that Neuheisel heard Falk express some interest in that job, and he immediately told me, he said, I would take Luke Falk on my staff. Does he become an offensive coordinator? Does he become a quarterback coach? I think you do need somebody with those connections. I think the more you can connect with that fan base, the better. But this is a good hire. The timing of it works. You get it done before the portal. And everybody in this new World Pac-12 is a little off balance. That's the thing. Nobody's coming into the ring totally unbalanced. Even Boise State, a 5-loss season coming into this conference. San Diego State's got a coach in Sean Lewis who had a great season. But there's a lot of questions about, is this next year going to be Lewis's last year at San Diego State? Oregon State's starting over with a new coach. Colorado State's starting over with a new coach. There's a lot of uncertainty in this conference, and so you're not disadvantaged in the way you once were in the old Pac-12, where it just had some institutions that had so much trajectory and momentum that it was hard to catch them. So I think Washington State, if you want to look for advantages, I think Kirby Moore, if he does this right, they could walk into the league as a top half of the conference team.
Your sit-down interview with John Harlow, who's the interim AD at Washington State right now. It's up on your YouTube page. Just search John Canzano. Your takeaway with the amount of money. What's the neighborhood that they need to live in, according to Harlow, financially, to compete in the new Pac-12 and just where we're at right now with college football? And then I want to follow up where
the new Pac-12, because I talked to all these athletic directors across the conference, and it's funny to talk with them because I try to ask them, how much do you need to spend? How much revenue do you need to share with athletes to build a roster? Like, how much investment are we talking? Whether it's revenue sharing or NIL. And you'll get a range of numbers. Some will say you need a minimum of $5 million to be able to share with athletes to just even have a chance. You need $7 million to try to be a top 25 school in nationally. You can get into the bottom of the top 25 spending $7 million. And so I kind of have thought all along that maybe that $7 million marker is where we're going to see the top schools in the New World Conference land. And Harlow said it out loud. He said $7 million is that threshold that you need to get to. And I think it's interesting that Elizabeth Cantwell, the president at Washington State, we're watching presidents say and do things they've never done before. Right. The president of Washington State is raising money for athletics, saying we need $5 million in NIL money. Let's new dollars. Let's launch this campaign. I think it's really smart to do this in conjunction with the new hire. They'll bang the drum about it tomorrow. You better believe they're going to talk about NIL. They're going to talk about external fundraising, because that is what it is all about. But it's $7 million, Puck. That's not going to get you up there at the top of the CFP, where you have schools spending $18 to $20 million. But it like Major League Baseball, you've got to spend enough.
Yeah.
And then you have to hope you stay healthy. You have, like, if you're the Mariners and you're spending at like 15th in the MLB, you've got a more precarious path than the Dodgers, but you can still get there, as we saw this last season. You just have to have, some guys come in and overachieve, and you have to have your free agent signings work, and you have to stay healthy.
All right. So if their goal, what Harlow said to you, is $7 million, does that put them right around $2.5 million where they're currently at right now?
Yeah, I would say they're somewhere between $2 and $3 million right now. So they have a big bite they need to take. I don't think it was accidental that the president said, "Hey, we need $5 million in new NIL dollars."
Mm-hmm. All right, let's go over to the other big news, obviously, of the week in college football. And again, Kirby Moore's press conference will be on Tuesday. Will be introduced as the newest head coach at Washington State. So the Sherrone Moore fallout at Michigan, right? The first signs point to it's Kalen DeBoer, right? Kalen DeBoer's number one on the list. Now, Jedd Fisch's name has been brought up a bunch. He's on everyone's, top 5 candidates. Kenny Dillingham as well. And I want to get to Dillingham in just a second. Let's start. DeBoer has taken himself out. He's put out the press release. The contract extension is coming, all of it. It's the same circle we do every single time with these coaches. Now, we haven't seen yet or heard about the contract extension for Jedd Fisch. If you're Jedd Fisch, why would you take that job? And then why would Michigan want Jedd Fisch?
Well, if you're Jedd Fisch, you take that job because it's a better job. It's one of the best 4 or 5 jobs in the country. And, I think he's happy in Seattle. Look at the performance in the bowl game. They played really well. They have a lot of momentum. But if you're Jedd Fisch and Michigan comes calling, that is a difficult call to not take, especially just the position he's in. And let's look at his resume, Puck. The best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. Mm-hmm. Jedd Fisch is transient. He's moving. I don't know if his suitcase is unpacked, but I think he's happy where he is until he's not. And that Michigan job would appeal to him. I think he could go win there. You can win a national championship there. You can get in the playoff in a lot of years, if not most years, at Michigan. It's a different task than the job he's currently got at Washington. And I think he's got a good job at Washington. But if you're Michigan, I think Jedd Fisch is a fallback guy. I don't think he's a guy that you're pursuing as your main option. And so I kind of think they'll run out some other ground balls before whether or not they come back to Jedd Fisch will determine how those things go. To me, I think they know they could probably have him if they want him. And so I think they go look at some other things in the interim and then maybe come back to him. And if you're Pat Chun, the AD at Washington, look, a lot of the big segment of that fan base is expressed to me. This is unscientific, but the whisper I keep hearing from fans at Washington is, they've been through Chris Peterson. They've been through Jimmy Lake. They've been through Kalen DeBoer. They like Jedd Fisch, but they don't love Jedd Fisch like they like Kalen DeBoer. Like Kalen DeBoer was, that was Camelot to them.
Yeah.
He got him to the promised land. And so I think the fan base probably views Jedd Fisch as more of a placeholder than their forever guy. And I think that's like, let's go back to what we expect Kirby Moore to say in this news conference tomorrow. Like Jedd Fisch, I think in some respects kind of came in kind of more transparent, saying, look, hey, like I move around, like this, nothing's forever. And I think the fan base probably, acknowledged that and embraced that. And I think people are excited about next year. Nobody wants to see the momentum interrupted if you're a Husky fan, especially with the timing of the portal now. January 2nd, the portal opens. But I think there would be some acceptance that Jedd's not the forever guy, and there probably wouldn't be a lot the tears that you saw when Kalen DeBoer left.
I would agree. I would agree with all that, because I think the DeBoer, it was very reminiscent to, the standard at that school is going to be Don James, and it's going to forever be Don James. And so they put every coach that comes up to him, right? You heard it with Chris Peterson when he was here. You heard it with Kalen DeBoer. Now, no one's ever saying that about Jedd Fisch, that it reminds him of Don James. It's just not the case. So, but I would say to Jedd Fisch, I think it'd be career suicide. I would, because I don't think the job is. I personally, now I'm going to have to, Cougar fans, you're going to have to take me back into the circle. Okay. When I say this, I don't think it's that much better of a job. I really don't. I think Washington gets really discredited for how good of a program they are by a lot of people in the national media. You step back and look at their all-time wins. They're like 15th to 17th, depending on where you look, in all-time wins. That's right behind USC. They're the not the biggest brand now, but the most successful team on the West Coast besides USC. They've been to 2 college football playoffs in the last 8 years. It's not like you can't win there. They lost the national championship a couple of years ago. And hell, if a couple plays go their way, they're right in the game. They ran in with Chris Peterson's team. They ran into a buzzsaw in Alabama. So this idea you can never win there and it's so bad. I mean, it's a great alumni base. It is a great fan base. It's rabid. They fill that place out. There's a ton of money here. I just think for Jedd Fisch, he has a 12th or 13th recruiting class in America. He's got his quarterback coming back. To bail now and to go there with all the problems they have, I don't know. I think it'd be a mistake. Yeah. I know Michigan's got the bigger brand and the all-time wins and more money to spend, and it looks great and the logo and everything. But I don't know.
You're talking logically, though, and most of these coaches most often don't. Yeah. Kalen DeBoer left Washington, and he could have won 9 games, and everybody be happy. He goes to a school at Alabama where if he wins 9 games in most years, they're going to want him fired. And that's what you're really talking about, is the expectations. Plus, there's a complicating factor here that Ward Manuel, the athletic director at Michigan, there is a drip, drip, drip of the faucet right now that leads me to believe that at some point, Ward Manuel is not going to be the AD. So do you want to take this job knowing that, this guy's you're going to outlast your athletic director? And I can remember Mike Leach, when his AD, Bill Moose, moved on, Mike Leach saying, there's nobody in the building who was around when I got hired. And that there's a concern there if you're a coach. And so, if it's about job security and it's about Jedd Fisch saying, I really need to be the coach somewhere for the next 8 years or so. Yeah, he stays put at Washington. He can do that. But if it's about Jedd Fisch's ambition, pull his resume out and take a look. That's what it's about.
Sure.
I think he'd be awfully interested in Michigan. I think he'd go.
See, now we'll get to Kenny Dillingham, and this one's all over the place, right? Because you see his emotional little news conference that he had after practice. There's reports out that a contract extension was out there, that they're talking, and so everyone's like, all right, he's done. He's not taking the Michigan job, but he hasn't signed it yet.
Yeah.
Here, if I could pull Kenny Dillingham aside, I'd just be like, and Jim Moore says this all the time, and you know what? And there's a lot of truth to this. You win at Arizona State, you're a legend. They're going to put a statue of Dillingham up there. He wins at Michigan. You're supposed to win at Michigan. Right. A lot of people win at Michigan. That has been a sleeping giant forever down in ASU. And I got a feeling he's starting to get it going and building momentum in that place. He's from there, went to school there, as he told, said in that news conference or that post-practice conference. I mean, his parents live down the street. His sister's, daughter is best friends with his kid. I just, if you're Dillingham, there's a lot more that goes into this than just about going to the brand and winning games. It's about life, and it's about building something there at your alma mater and being the guy that finally pushes them over the edge. I just advise him not to take that job.
He's not taking that job. He's negotiating. He's making sure that Arizona State has his back when it comes to contract years and provisions in his contract in support of his assistant coaching staff, his pool of assistants. He is doing what I think a lot of coaches would do who want to stay in one place. He's got to use the leverage that he's got right now to create the advantages that he needs at Arizona State. And so I think he is thinking about the things that he's probably observed when he was coaching at Oregon and going, okay, what provisions and what backstops can I have instituted now that will help me later? Arizona State's never going to give him that stuff unless he's got a job opportunity in front of him. And so I think even the hint or the threat of him leaving creates a lot of angst and that fan base. He does have it going. He knows he has it going. Mm-hmm. He's not going anywhere. You saw his tears at his news conference. Yeah. I've talked to him. I went down to that final Pac-12 tournament, baseball tournament out in the sun there in Tempe. Kenny Dillingham brought his team to the stadium. He's local yokel. I mean, he's in it down there. And I think most people who know him and talk to him are going, he's not going anywhere. But he's got to use this Michigan thing now because he's not going to have this opportunity again. He needs the support of that institution, and it needs to be in ways that probably most of us aren't thinking about. It's about, his job security, sure, but it's more about, hey, what's his recruiting budget? Can he get a few more dollars? How about his assistant coaching, pool for his assistants? Can he get a few more dollars? Can he get more guaranteed revenue sharing for his football program? He's building depth to that program that maybe it hasn't had probably ever.
JohnCanzano.com is the website. Go read all of his work up there. Follow him on social media, John Canzano, BFT. Also, check out his YouTube page, John Canzano. Latest video up there. He has interviewed WSU interim AD John Harlow about what led to Kirby Moore, the financial situation there at WSU. Go give it a watch. It's great stuff. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Thank you for doing it a day early.
You bet. Thank you.
There he is, John Canzano, johncanzano.com. Again, check out his YouTube page as well, John Canzano, for interviews like he did with interim AD John Harlow at Washington State. Our full interview, our full podcast there with John will be available through the Daily Puck Drop, both video and audio, and then also on YouTube. We just separate John's appearance weekly. Big thanks to Flat Stick Pub for delivering Canzano with us every single week. He does not believe, and I tend to agree, that Kenny Dillingham will not take the Michigan job despite the overtures there from the Wolverines. He's using it as negotiating to get more resources at Arizona State. And the same thing with Fisch, but this means even more for Dillingham. I just, the quality of life and where you're at and all those things just have to at some point trump being a part of a brand. And if Jim were here, he would say the same thing. Why not be a part of something that changes the entire culture, the entire fan base, the entire university? It's not like Arizona State has not had success at football. Of course they have. Bruce Snyder and Dennis Erickson. I mean, there has been times and periods where that program has been really good. It hasn't reached the point that I think a lot of people thought, including myself, that it should be at. I mean, it's in a fertile recruiting ground in Arizona. A lot of people have moved there, especially in the last decade. He can dip into Texas. He can dip into LA and California. It's a great campus. It's sunny all the time. The facilities are good. There's money there. It is and everyone's been saying it's a sleeping giant. And he's done a hell of a job in the last 2 years. And when you're from there and your parents live there and your family's there, that quality of life, and maybe there's a difference in money, and it is Michigan, and it's one of the most recognizable brands in college football. You got to weigh it, though. The pressure, living there, of what you have right now. What he has right now is really, really good. And I'd say the same thing for Jedd Fisch. He doesn't have that same emotional connection to Washington like Dillingham has at Arizona State. But I would say to Jedd Fisch that, I don't know what your ceiling is, but can you win What did they get? 9 wins this year? And I know people say, well, we're not satisfied with 9 wins. 10 wins and 9 wins, I don't think should be scoffed at in college football ever. Like ever. And I think where they're at in this conference, the history that they have had, again, it does get that program for some weird reason gets this disrespect as if they haven't been one of the most successful programs. And again, this is coming from a Cougs. So Jesus, don't listen to me. I'm just giving you my thoughts. He can win there. Could he win a national championship there? Yeah, he could. It's been done. It's been shown. It's been shown that you can get there. And there are resources at that university. There are resources within that fan base. And I just think the jumping to the next gig this is what Fisch does. I think it would be a mistake for him. I think he's making a mistake if he were to take the job. Hell, if Michigan wanted him, Michigan would have already offered him the job. So I don't think he's number one on their list. Where is he at? Probably was DeBoer. He's out. They're probably still trying to work on Dillingham if you kind of are reading, through the tea leaves. And then maybe, I hate saying that they settle for Jedd Fisch, but that would be kind of the scenario. They are kind of running out of options. Where would Washington turn after that? I don't know. If you're that administration right now, you got to be working the phones overtime of who you could land in case that he leaves. And if any AD should have that working list going for them right now. Does Kyle Whittingham stepping down at Utah? I mean, he didn't say that he was retiring, and that's the thing. And I think it was Stuart Mandel had the story. He said he never said retire. And I think Mandel reported that the option of him coaching is still out there. And I was texting with Jordan Reffett yesterday about it, or maybe it was on Saturday. If Washington went, let's say Fisch takes the job at Michigan, and let's say it's Kyle Whittingham comes in, that is a massive upgrade. That is a massive upgrade in coaching. It just is. He is one of the best coaches in college football and has been for a very long time. And the mindset of how he coaches and how he teaches fits more of what the identity DNA of that program is and has been over the years than what Jedd Fisch does. But we'll see how it all shakes out. Again, big thanks to John Canzano for joining us there weekly. We've kind of moved some things around today. The show will be altered tomorrow because I'm going to be in Pullman for the Kirby Moore press conference. And doing a bunch of interviews. So we may try to do it live early in the morning and do like a real abbreviated show to have Danny Kelly on and things like that. But we moved up John one day, so I was not going to be able to have John on or guarantee we'd have John on tomorrow. So that's why you put him on today. We moved up Michael-Shawn Dugar earlier in the program talking about the Seahawks. Jim's not here today. He's traveling back from Seattle back to Bend, visiting his family. He'll be back with us on Wednesday. All right, before we go to the On This Day and then Hey What the Puck, the news over the weekend, Jorge Polanco ends up signing with the Mets. It's a 2-year deal with $40 million. Now, the reaction from 99% of people has been the same. It's been the exact same reaction that you could just script. Oh, it's good for Jorge. No way at $20 million. In which I sit back and go, and this is amazing. This is a complete 360, like turnaround, where you go from, or 180, I guess, of where you go from a year ago when we were discussing Jorge Polanco. We're like, God, really? Jorge Polanco? Ugh. Whatever, $7 million or whatever it was, to going, God, I kind of wanted him back, which I did. And that's all credit to Jorge Polanco of what he did and what the work that he put in this season. And did he wear down a little bit? I think wearing down had a lot to do with him playing a little bit more in the field. I wanted to see him more, fill into that role as your designated hitter. I think he's got a couple more years left, and I was all on board of keeping the band back together. What I don't understand, and I will never, ever, for the life of me, understand this from people that are baseball fans and who are Mariner fans, going, but the money's too much. Why do you care? Why does anyone care that he got $40 million? I don't. I don't care what they pay him. I wanted him back. You want to know why I don't care what they paid him? Because there's no fucking salary cap in the sport. That's why. I don't care at all. And if you overpay for him, who cares? It's not your money. Does not matter. The biggest thing in the issue, and God, I love him and I love the team that I have with this group that runs it, is this artificial salary cap they put on themselves. There is no cap. They don't need to operate this way. And if they would just, for the love of God, just say, F it, we're all in. Go in, and it wins you a World Series. The money that you lose now or spend now, you recoup it later and then some. And eventually when you guys sell, you guys are just going to be fat and happy for the rest of your lives. But they don't operate like that at times. I don't care that it was 2 years, $40 million. I think it's the laziest thing that I hear. Oh, well, that's just too rich for them. Why? Was he integral to your team winning the West last year? Was Jorge Polanco a massive part of this team to be one win away from playing in the World Series? If you've checked the boxes to yes to that, as you should, then you should honestly be a little pissed off and furious that they didn't re-sign him. You really should. Because where are they going to pick up that offensive production from? It certainly isn't Brendan Donovan. He ain't coming in here and giving you that. Please, he's not even remotely the same player offensively. Does he strike out less? Yes. Is he a nice player that can move all around? Of course. But the Gold Glove that he won, first of all, he won the same award that Dylan Moore won. And are we like pounding for Dylan Moore? It was a utility Gold Glove. That's what he won. And I get he doesn't strike out a bunch. And I know how we're obsessed with the strikeout numbers, and I get it. And I'm just saying, yes, I watch highlights of him. I get enamored with prospects too. I would not want to part with Laz Montez for Brendan Donovan. No way. I think and again, it's a projection, and he may be a dud, of course. But the upside of him is Yordan Alvarez. And I'm not trading the potential of an upside of Yordan Alvarez for Brendan Donovan. No way. I just think that would be foolish for these guys. They don't have that power in their organization. They need power like that. Yeah, he's 20, strikes out a ton. A lot of guys strike out a ton in the minors. It happens. Well, look at his power numbers, what he slugs and his OPS. You can't teach that raw power. He can get better with time. They may pull it off. Maybe it's Sanjay who that I wouldn't be so upset to part with, just because I think this organization has a great history and track record with pitchers. But I mean, they bring in Donovan Fine, but now we've taken a step back offensively in a big way in terms of trying to put together a team that can, function offensively and score runs. I just think that, yes, it's great that they had Naylor back, but you're going in now into a 26 season, which you're trying to take the next step to win a World Series, right? And you're talking about whatever the options now at second base are with Cole Young, and if it's Donovan and they acquire him, what's at third base? Ben Williamson / Colt Emerson. I know everyone's high on Colt Emerson, but I don't know what he's going to do. Colt Emerson could be an absolute dud. They bring him up here and he wins the job at third base. I just think that they had an opportunity to bring everyone back and then add some players. And now they've allowed one of the guys who they deemed kind of a core player to leave because of money. And money should not be a roadblock for this organization at all. All right, on this day, December 15th, let's get to it before we get to What the Puck. 2019, December 15th, the Raiders play their final game in Oakland. Next season, they moved to, of course, Las Vegas, and really just Oakland lost everything. They lost the A's, they lost the Raiders, they lost the Warriors. I know they went across the bay, but if anyone's ever been there, Oakland ain't San Francisco ain't Oakland. So they lost their identity and really just kind of the sports culture. There's the Raiders playing their final game in 2019, and who also has coached their final season in the NFL is Pete Carroll, because there's just no way the Raiders are bringing Pete Carroll back. They cannot afford it. They get blown out yesterday. They get blanked. They're 2-12. And it's sad because Pete Carroll's a hell of a football coach, should go in the Hall of Fame as a coach. But this final season for him, this final dance has just not been a good one. 1995, one of the greatest movies ever made, and I believe it's coming back. I think there's going to be a sequel. If I read that accurately online, and I believe everything I read online, Heat was released on December 15th, 1995, directed by Michael Mann, who, of course, really got to start when he was the director, the creator of Miami Vice on TV. But Heat makes its debut. Sensational. One of the greatest movies ever made. And I think it is coming back. Heat 2. Starting, I think Leonardo DiCaprio's in it. That's going to be great. Also on this date in 2011, Barry Bonds sentenced to 30 days of house arrest, 2 years probation, 250 hours of community service for an obstruction of justice conviction stemming from a grand jury appearance back in 2003, related there to Balco. All right. Hey, What the Puck, brought to you by Restoration One of North Seattle. Your restoration company lets you avoid the stress of water, fire, and mold damage with their property restoration services, locally owned and operated. Make them your first call when those damages affect your residential or commercial property. Visit them at restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise. Watching Phillip Rivers yesterday was awesome. It really was. As a football fan, as a sports fan, to watch somebody at his age and the time off that he'd been away from the game of football go out there and compete. And it really just gives you a glimpse, an inside view of the incredible competitiveness of these elite athletes in all sports. They're so different, and they're wired so differently. They're built to look at things differently than we do, and they go out there and all they want is that one last chance, not to be great again, but to compete again, that drug of competition. And to watch Rivers go out there, and he wasn't sensational, he wasn't awful. And Michael-Shawn Dugar said it earlier, had they won that game, that last throw, that back shoulder throw to put him in field goal position would have been played over and over and over again, and would have been the biggest storyline from the weekend of the NFL, of being able to come off the streets after 5 years, 44 years of age, gut hanging over his football pants, and leading his team to a victory. And the message that he sent, he talked about it after the game to his kids he coaches there in Alabama, to his own son that was in the stands yesterday. Invaluable. To never give up, to always chase something if you've got something left, and try. That's the message. Just try. You may fail, but if you try, you may not fail. You may succeed, but you've got to get there and try. It was fun to watch Phillip Rivers yesterday compete. All right. Hey, What the Puck, brought to you by Restoration One. Reach out to them for any needs, any issues, especially up north. If you've got damage with all the, terrible floods and people's homes being lost and property being damaged, Restoration1.com, the North Seattle franchise, is going to be your one stop. They're going to help you out. A great organization, great company led by our guy Trent, and he and his company is going to take care of you. Again, we start off the show with this. We'll kind of wrap it up. To everyone, again, you're not watching or listening. Maybe you know someone that's been affected by it. Just terrible devastation that we've seen across our state. Maybe more devastation to come, unfortunately. But it has been really hard to sit there and watch, and all the videos and the things that have come out. There are two websites if you want to reach out. One is the Skagit County Relief Fund link. Just go to skagitcf.org. Again, that is skagitcf.org. And then, of course, the American Red Cross as well. Ways to donate, redcross.org, to help out anybody there in need. That's going to wrap it up for us here on this Monday. Again, tomorrow we'll have some abbreviated programming. We will catch up with Danny Kelly, whether it's live or just taped. We'll put something out there in the morning. We'll update you there on social media. I'll be in Pullman for the Kirby Moore press conference, so be on the tune. I'll be on the lookout for a bunch of interviews, bunch of content coming out tomorrow there from Pullman. Really excited to go see him, have his press conference, be introduced to the university, and just excited to see what he's going to do for the program. I think it's an A+ hire, and really looking forward to meeting him tomorrow, sitting down with him and talking to him and others there in Pullman. Big thanks, everybody watching and listening to today's show. Find it up on YouTube. When you're there, please subscribe to the Daily Puck Drop and Puck Sports on YouTube. You may watch it, but you don't subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave a comment, please. Also, find the Daily Puck Drop on your favorite podcast platforms, Apple and Spotify. If you have a few seconds, write a review, hit the 5-star button. It helps us kind of climb those charts and move up the ladder. Big thanks to, again, all of our sponsors as well: Limbeck Lumber, Georgetown Brewery, Flat Stick Pub, Restoration1.com for their support. Also, go to pucksports.com. There you can find all of our content, and that's the best place to sign up to become a Pucks Posse member. You support everything that we do daily on the Daily Puck Drop. And then also, we give you bonus shows throughout the week. We'll have another edition of Inside Pitch with Ryan Divish this week, and also another edition of KJ Arntz with Mitch Levy. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow from Pullman. Until then, as always, we promise, and I mean we promise, to be better.
No shoes, no ties.
Would anybody like to smoke some pot?
Yeah.
I was born to love. I was born to lick your face. I was born to rub you, but you were born to rub me first.
What do you need my address for? We'd like to send out anyway.
Mother of mercy, I don't speak Japanese!